So, this is a little, I was going to say a short video, but it'll probably end up being quite long, on the basic routine. So many people download StarTools for the first time and they open it up and they get confronted with this screen and, oh, what? Yeah, right, what do we do? Well, so the idea behind this video really is just an overview, and I'll just slowly, I'll just go through opening an image and going through the process. Maybe some additional steps outside of StarTools later on as well, just to finish off my image pretty much like I do on a normal everyday basis. So without further ado, let's open an image. This image is a donated image, a donor image by Mike McGovern from the Astronomy Society of Edinbugh. I asked him, he was talking about StarTools, and I said, well, send me some of your, not top data, just everyday, even rubbish data, and we'll see what we can do with it, at least get something out of it. So that's what he's done here. It's a Horsehead Nebula, which is popular and everyone knows it, so that's the reason I've used that. Anyway, open, you get confronted, you open your image, which has to be a stacked fits image, preferably. We're going to get confronted with this screen and one shot colour up. We're not doing a RGB narrowband or any of that image. It's just a bog standard one shot colour image, and it'll either be linear or non-linear. Well, it's linear, so I'm just going to usually go for the middle one. Possible stacking, it usually comes up with that as well. That's invariably the stacking errors around the edge of the frame. Now, the procedure basically for workflow is to start at the top left, right. These two at the top, they're two things, they are the same thing effectively, just different variations of the same, so you can count that as one. So it would be left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, just go down like that, and that won't be far away. The first thing to do, it's a tradition in StarTools, but once you get good with your own data, you don't really need it. Go to the auto dev one, and that'll show you, it's just an initial screen stretch to show you if you've got any nasties in there, donuts, dust bunnies, or whatever you call them. But as you can see, if I zoom in a bit more, you can see the stacking errors there. So just keep that, and then my routine is always, I'll go in and bin it, and I usually stick with the default, which is 50%, and then crop it. And I usually budget on I think centimetre, ½ inch all the way around, and just go with that. Keep. Next stage is the wipe, which is doing all our gradients, even. Myself, I usually take the dark anomalies early in the morning here. I normally filter up to 4/5 on my equipment, but this was Mike's, so I'm just going to use my same routine. Aggressiveness, quite often I'll reduce it to 70, but I'll leave it to defaults for just to show that you can get a result just basically using the defaults. All these other sliders, feel free, if you hit the question mark at the end, you'll get an explanatory dialogue come up, and at the top here you've got the help. If you click that, that will take you, it'll open your browser, or go to your browser page with this module's help file online, which can be quite handy when you later on, when you're going into the you've lifted up the bonnet and you want to see what each little engine component does for advice and help. Can be quite useful. Anyway, we'll keep this. Now the next stage is we're still linear data, so we need to go in and stretch it. There are two ways of doing this. Go back into the auto dev one, redo the global stretch again, accept that, and it'll do a pretty good job, but you can select the region of interest. You want the background to be a bit darker, etc., etc. And this is it takes a bit of experience, well, not experience, a bit of trial and error to get the result that you're after. For example, if I click on this area, I'll get it's a question of what do you want? It's after you've done it a few thousand times, you get quite experienced at deciding what works for you. Personally, just lately, I'm a bit old school, but there's the one next to it is called Film Dev. So I'm still quite often use this instead of the auto development. And if you hit the home in button here repeatedly, you'll get a nice stretched image. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with this. I quite like it. It gives me good. And I also have got a little histogram here, which I can use as a guide, a visual. You always get that little deep step at the side. What I will do is usually go right up home until it comes to its preference, the default, and then go up a few if I can, just to give it that extra. But conscious of the background, I always want a nice background. I'm going to keep that now. Maybe go a few more, hang on. That was minus, no, it's plus. Try and push it a bit. And we'll keep that. Now it's basically right to left, right down, right to left, down. Initial one's contrast. I'm using a GPU version, graphics process unit version of StarTools, which once it's loaded and up and running can be incredibly fast. I mean, that worked on the data straight away there, before and after. So this guide is really about just a quick run through basic getting something out of your image. HDR, so we did the contrast. HDR, I'll stick with the defaults for this. The HDR is good. If you look at, you sometimes don't notice any difference, but if you look at the nebulosity, especially if you've got galaxies, Orion's Nebula is a good the Great Orion Nebula even where the core is, you'll see all the veins suddenly come out. It does take a bit longer, this one, but you can see just did it there. People often say, well, I can't see any colour. You won't see any colour at this stage because you're only working on the luminance of the image, of your data. So that's the HDR sharp. This will come up with a click the next button, next. I tend, if it's got huge stars, I'll tend to use the conservative one. Just hit that. It creates a star mask to protect the stars. And that's one thing you need to do, well, I tend to do, is do a before and after, but just check out on the stars. That's up here, before and after, up and right here. So you've got a, you can't always see it when I'm doing it online, on a video or YouTube, but trust me, you can see it yourself. Happy with that. I tend to stick with the default 300. Sometimes I'll go below as well, a bit lower. You can always come back later and sharpen some more, and use selective sharpening by creating masks for certain areas. So I'm going to keep that. Next one is deconvolution, which is amazing. I'm going to stick with the auto conservative mask for this as well, because I've got those big nebulous star cloudy things. I don't particularly want them to get involved at this point. That was so quick I didn't even notice. It just starts off with 10 iterations. Sometimes I'll reduce it, sometimes I won't. Just a gut feeling or just a visual look at the star, you think that was a bit too sharp. So just take the iterations down a couple of notches if you think it's, you want. I think less is more sometimes, isn't it? You can always tell when you're finished because you get the before and after option pops out. Keep that. Now the big one you're waiting for is to go into the colour. So fill the mask. Now we've got some colour in our image. And one thing that I do most times these days is again go into the mask at the top, auto, stars, undo. That's fine. Keep it. Takes you back to the colour module. Hit the sample button and then go back into mask. This sampled the a white balance for the star. It's using the stars to calibrate our white balance. I think that's the term I'm looking for. Go back into the mask and we want to clear it and then invert it, because green is the area that the module will use. So everything green is what's being acted on by the module. So we want the whole lot to be thing. And that gives us an interesting image. Well, you've got a scientific choice. You can go scientific consistency, which I tend to do these days actually, or if there's not artistic options. This tends to reduce the saturation somewhat, so we can go up and tidy things up. Seems to have made a nice job of the stars, I think. These really strong stars. I tend to knock even no background saturation, or at least reduce it a lot. Especially on these rich hydrogen red subjects. Otherwise it's difficult to know where it starts and where it stops. So as I say, that's not too bad. You can spend days in here. One option you've got at the top is max RGB. if you look on there, that gives you a colour map that you can visualise where the strength and depth of colours are, and then from there you can use the bias reduce. It's reducing at the moment, so I've set them to reduce colour bias, but if you click on the arrow you can switch it to increase the colour bias, so if you wanted more blue, etc, etc, but you can play with that for a while. So for example, if I want to reduce the strength of the red, I'll just click on here, click the slider pushing it up, and that'll tease it back a bit. Lovely jubbly. I'm going to keep this for now. I mean, I don't want to spend 3 days doing a video, but you'll get bored and I'll get bored, one thing or another. But you've always got the undo and redo. Right, I'm going to go with that. If you want the one next to it, so we've come all the way down, left to right, down, left to right, down, left to right, down. Stars. Most people like to tighten their stars up. Well, this will do that straight away. Looking good. Zoom in, zoom out, you can see the result. If you want to reduce it or increase it, just change the iterations. Anything will go up. Love it. Piece of art, this. Entropy. I'm not worried about the filter at the moment. Entropy is all about colour. Sometimes it does a good job, but sometimes, occasionally, especially on these big strong stars, it can really do some damage. Well, make it look a bit It's always the same. Whichever processing software you use, to check on keep an eye on your stars, because before you know it, one click and your stars have turned into horrible blobs, or blobs with dark in the middle. Change it to high resolution, see if that makes any difference for a minute. Should slow it down. Slurping my tea while it's doing that. So if I click on the help thing here, on the dark light enhance, and it's telling me if you want to increase faintness nebulosity only, set this to 0 and 100%. So I'll have a go at that. See if I can push it up a bit. Only oh my gosh, certainly does that. Before, after, pushes it. If anything, that's a bit too much. Don't think it was that bad actually. Anyway, something else to play with while you're drinking your tea. keep it for now. That's more or less where I'm at for this. So next stage, track, noise reduction. So we're going to apply noise reduction. This is a selective thing, or a personal thing. Some people like the noise to be really, the background to be clear as a whistle. Personally, I'm not so keen on that. I can always affect that later on if I go into another application, Photoshop or something like that. Or noise, reducing noise reduces detail, so I'm going to keep this as it is. I'm quite happy with that. Just stick with the default. Sometimes if it goes, say 6, on the slider, I might knock it up to 8 or something to give it that extra boost. The only other thing I do now is I'll save this as, let me just delete these a sec. Oops. Can't do it. Okay. These are ones I did earlier. So I'm just going to delete them. That's how confident I am of getting it wrong. So I'm going to save it as STFinal 01. You have to put the .tif prefix at the end, and that's now saved. The next thing I'll do is go into the superstructure, set full mask. This usually takes a few seconds to sort itself out, but it will tighten up the background and just generally tidy the image up. So this is, the data set from Mike is great, but it's not the finest data set that I've ever had. But you see the superstructure tightens it up quite a lot. And then this has got a, tightens it up. By tightening up, I mean it smooths it out quite a lot. But it does have a strength slider here, so you can reduce the effect a little bit. Quite often like using the Trevor Jones 66%. I'm just going for a pleasing image at the moment. So I'll keep that. Could rotate it, I think, so I can see it in all its glory. 180 should do it. Keep that. So there we go. A little bit of mediocre data. At least we've got something in here. From this point, I'm just going to save that as it is actually and overwrite the existing file. Save, overwrite, yes. And that's me for a minute. For the time being, I'm just going to come out of StarTools, delete that, close, yeah. My next task, so I'll go into the free download called Siril, whatever you call it. I'm going to open that image in here, if I can remember where it is. A little of that Astro stuff. Warset, STFinal 01, open it. Oh, it's black and white, but you can see the black and white data is brilliant. So is that. The only reason I show you this is that it's got some post-image processing stacking tools in here, one of which is remove green noise. So any green, it's just SCNR, same as you use in available in PixInsight. Just hit apply, and that will sort out any I think it's control and roll the mouse, and you can zoom in and out. So any hint of green in there, it will just tidy it up. To save it, you right click, save RGB as TIFF. There are other tools in here that you can utilise. I'm going to call this one ST Final 01 Siril. Siril? Save it as 16-bit unsigned. This saves in a different directory, in the pictures directory, but that's fine for now. So I'll close this, exit Siril, go into the pictures directory, and I'm going to open that with Photoshop. We're in McGovern. And there's a couple of enhancements I like to do in Photoshop. One is tighten up the noise. The way I do that is create a duplicate. I'll call it NR for now, noise reduction, and go to select color range, and we want to choose shadows, whoosh. And what I'm looking to do is, if I can, is have a look play and try and get as much of quite a bit of the nebulosity and the detail, but the white is the background, so I want to try and tighten that up. That's not too bad. Quite honest, the way the noise reduction works here, I don't think it really matters. I don't really notice any difference with the nebulosity territory if it still looks nice. Next stage, select a mask, just to feather it a bit. Trevor James's favourite tool is. And then Control J to put that mask on top. Now open up, select Filter Camera Raw, and go to Detail, slide the noise reduction right over to one side, to the right, and the colour noise, say OK, that's all you've got to do. And now we can, obviously, the nebulosity that was masked, so there's still, it's fairly smooth, but the background, probably won't be able to see it. Let me do it. You can see the difference. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. But that is way, way over the top. I wouldn't like to. Well, some people like to do that. Control 0 for the whole screen. But personally, I like start off with the Trevor Jones, which is 66%, and then toggle it on and off. Sometimes, to me, it's a bit fierce. I think some noises makes it look a bit false if you don't have some. A little bit. That's better. You can always come back and do it again later. That tightens it up. Try and get Control 0. That's smoothed the image out quite a lot. Now, the next stage I want to do is enhance the if you like, the deep sky object, the nebulosity. So to do that, we're going to go Control Shift Alt and E. That'll give us a stamp visible layer. I'll call it Enhance for the sake of this video. And first thing we're going to do is go to Filter, Other, High Pass. And now from here you can move the slider up. What we're trying to do is get all these bright bits brighter. The recommendation is between 5 and 30 the radius, but I must admit, I don't know if it's me or my data or what, but I tend to go a lot higher than that, just for a laugh. We'll go to 84. So let's say OK to that. Again, we want to go to, now we've got to protect the stars, so we go Select, Colour Range. This time we want Highlights. Once you've done this a few times, you just go whoosh and sort it out. So we don't want that. We want somewhere akin to try and grab as many of the stars as we can. That's fine. Then go back into Select and go Modify, Expand. 4 is what I use for this, and then select Modify again, Feather 2. Tend to feather is always half of your expand, and if you want to preclude or remove some of the bigger stuff, go onto the lasso tool. I can't remember if it's Alt or Control, one or the other, and draw around it, the Alt key, and you can deselect some of the larger objects so that they're immune from persecution. Just do it rough. And this thing there, so it's the Alt key, hold the Alt key, draw a little ring around it, and that deselects it. Some of the really juicy stars are probably best left alone. Big areas of nebulosity. That's fine. And the next stage is go to Layer, Layer Mask, Hide Selection, and then go to the mode and change it from normal to soft light. Control 0, it gives us and you can see the effect that has. Again, it's dramatic effect, but it's down to personal choice. Go with the Trevor Jones 66, but you can play with this ad infinitum, and therein. That's quite nice, I quite like that. Next stage, the last bit, Control Shift Alt and E, stamp the visible, and just go into Filter Camera Roll. Ta-da! And we can play with our heart's content in here. I tend to go Vibrance, no. Probably 5 to 8. Saturation, not a lot. Just do 2, I think. Don't know what that was coming up. +3. Okay, have it your way. Clarity, you can push up the clarity a bit. Dehaze, well, yes or nay, yay or nay. What I will do is reduce the blacks, toy it down, and the other thing I like to do is go into the colours, which is the colour mixer. And I like my yellows to go brighter. I can't remember which way, I think it's the other way actually. And my oranges. What I'm trying to do is to get the flaming nebulosity in the bottom left a little bit brighter than the tea. I like a bit of a goldy feel to it, but this is all personal preference. You could play in here for hours. Well, quite a while. As long as your screen's fairly well monitored. There you go. Work of art. That's me done, really. That's about how long has that taken? Half an hour? Once you get slick at it, you can go much quicker. But you've got a nice picture that you can build on to do some more processing later on. So if you want to bring out some more nebulosity using some masks and processing it, teasing a bit more out, by all means you can, changing the colours. But I quite like this, so I'm going to save as. Saving it in pictures. STO1 final _ PS for Photoshop. Oh, hang on, I forgot. Flatten the image. Don't want to save all those layers. Save as. Save on your computer. Siril _ PS. So now I can look at the 3 different images. The StarTools final one. Let me just grab these. The Siril one, the StarTools one, Control X, pop them in the correct file. Where are you, Mike? There you go. Horsehead. Control V. Now we can look at the 3. So we've got 3 in a row. The ST final, which is perfectly nice. Just needs a bit more teasing in my. Whoa. Hang on, where are we going here? Oh, be horrible. There you go. There's the final TIFF one, and the one before is the one that came out of Siril because I got rid of the grit, any green that might have been in there. And that's the final one from Dero Photoshop. Probably go in and mask a bit more and perhaps get those darks a little bit more interesting, just to tease out. But even this, for example, just a quickie, we could open this back in StarTools. So I'll close our Photoshop, clear up some resources. StarTools, open, come on, don't hang about. Open the PS one, Photoshop one. Treat it as non-linear. Don't activate tracking or anything. There's no reason why I can't. For example, create a mask. Clear that. And if I wanted to sharpen up certain elements, a good way of doing it is to use a single toggle. And if you look through here, you can see all these, like a ribbon, isn't it, of details. I'll just do it quickly on here, but you can pick them out. They're like little veins. Well, I can see them. Veins of nebulosity. Going down through there, up there. Sort of one all across here. I'm not going to go above the horse. There is some there, just a teeny bit. I'm going to leave that. Just zooming in, but you can spend a long time doing this. There seemed to be something just there. What I'm going to do is grow that. Grow those lines. Just a little bit. So keep that. Then go into our sharp mode. Keep the mask as it is. Sometimes in here you have to change the slider before it'll run. Now we do before and after. It's fairly subtle, but not that subtle. I can see it here on the screen. And it's just teasing them out, those sharpening, so they're quite a little bit more sharper. Maybe not 250 to do that. Just to add a little bit of interest. And go back into our contrast module, HDR. Loads of options. And have a little play around in StarTools. HDR always takes a few extra time. It's doing a lot of work in here. See if we can tease out a little bit more information. As I say, it's as long as it is. What's the word? It's as long as it is short. But it's a funny little process. But add some HDR after. Seems to increase the doodah in there, and there's no reason why we can't go and do some more noise reduction in here. Have to choose linear, and then once, and then go back in. Take it up a bit if you want. It will be subtle anyway. I know everybody's totally preoccupied with having noisy images. I'll just save that one as ST final PS, and I'll call it ST02. .tiff. Save. Go back and open it in front view and just save. To me that looks quite nice. From mundane, I hate that word mundane, from not top dollar high class data, and that's taken, I've gone slowly in, slower than I normally would anyway. That's less an hour's worth of processing. Awesome. Hope that helps you all out. Anyone watching, thanks a lot for joining me on this magical voyage of StarTools, Siril and Photoshop discovery.